Welcome everyone to Voices and Legacy, a space created to spotlight stories, ideas, and the power of amazing entrepreneurs across different industries. Today I'm your host Nahrep, and I'm privileged to share this space with inspirational visionaries alongside me that have impacted the lives of thousands of people. We have here today Gary Acosta, who's the CEO of Nahrep, which is a National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, as well as we have Jaime Nacach, who's the CEO of Virtual Latinos, which is a remote work staffing agency that connects amazing talent from all over Latin America with companies worldwide. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Let's dive into our conversation today. It's going to be about leadership and the importance of community. And to start the conversation, first, I would like to learn a little bit more about Nahrep. And Gary, if you can share with us the vision and the mission of Nahrep.
So Nahrep is a trade association, so it's a business organization. It's been around for 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a labor of love. We're a member-based organization, so we have about 58,000 members in our organization. They're predominantly real estate agents and brokers, but also come from the entire housing ecosystem, so mortgage bankers and builders and people in the title insurance business and stuff like that. And the mission of the organization is just to improve or advance Hispanic homeownership. We believe very much that homeownership changes lives for the better. It's the first step in terms of wealth building for many families. And our work as an organization is to empower those real estate professionals who serve those Hispanic home buyers.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Jaime, the same question to you. Could you share with us more about the vision and the mission of Virtual Latinos?
Sure. So Virtual Latinos is a remote work staffing agency, and we help create valuable remote relationships with both business owners and businesses in the U.S. and North America with talented remote professionals from Latin America. And the goal is really to create a two-way powerful relationship that goes both ways, where both the business owners and the businesses in the U.S. Take advantage of the amazing talent in Latin America, and the talent in Latin America is able to grow and learn from the businesses in the U.S. And our mission is actually to improve the lives of 1 million people. So that's a big goal that we have, and that includes, improving the lives of the Latinos themselves, their families, as well as all the business owners and their families. So really try to improve everybody's lives through the relationships that we're building.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for sharing. And both organizations have such a huge impact across many different communities, not just in the U.S., but worldwide. I wanted to share quickly that Nahrep is an organization that works also closely with Virtual Latinos. So your impact also, Gary, your organization's impact is not just nationwide here in the U.S., but it's definitely have felt across Latin America as well. So congratulations to both of you. But having said that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the importance of community. And I wanted to ask, what is the importance of community and why the Latino community?
Well, first of all, I'm Latino, right? So I grew up in Southern California. I was very inspired by my family, my grandfather in particular, who was the pastor of a church in our community. High percentage of his members of his church came from Latin America and were immigrants. And just being in proximity to that really affected me in a very personal way. So I knew I wasn't destined for the clergy, but at some point, I started to make the connection between my business and the things that I wanted to accomplish professionally with my commitment to community. I never lost that, right? So the idea of separating community with business is something foreign to me. I always think about it in those terms. So we want to do business, we want to make money to support our families, but we also want an impact on our communities. We want to make the world around us a little bit better. I think when you work with that kind of purpose, it gives you a little bit more energy, it gives you a little bit more focus, and it just makes the work experience something that's much more rewarding.
Excellent. You definitely have a broader impact, which is very important what you shared. And how about you, Jaime?
So I'm from Mexico City, and so I grew up in Mexico and then moved here, to the U.S. And I grew up with, sad idea that no matter how hard you would necessarily work in Latin America, you might not have the ability to necessarily do a great future for yourself based on the limited opportunities that are in Latin America. And then, I was obviously thankful that I was able to come to the US, and, many opportunities, of course, opened. But I always, had that in the back of my mind. And although originally Virtual Latinos wasn't the original business that I meant to start, while working at the marketing agency that I had that turned into Virtual Latinos, not only from the background of living in Mexico, but I participated and volunteered a lot in my local community here in San Diego, which is a Mexican Jewish community. And I've volunteered for so long, and I was part of the community, and I was involved, and I saw how big of an impact I could do as a leader. While in the business, I was just working. So the moment that Virtual Latinos became not just an opportunity for business, but a much broader opportunity to help the broader community, both in the US in terms of the clients, but also the big community where I come from, was like amazing, right? Because I was able to have a place to break down those ideas and barriers of people not having those opportunities, right? So today, the community, which is a big part of what Virtual Latinos is compared to other similar companies, is that community is a big thing for us. It's a huge thing, and it's actually the first thing we built. So we made sure that people felt that they didn't just come to our community to apply to get a job, but a community that would support each other, which is actually the huge benefit of what we saw, that people interacted with each other, and they would actually try to help each other get a job rather than actually compete with each other, which is what normally happens in the job market. So yeah, the community we built, which we'll talk about more in detail, is really one of the biggest levers that makes this community actually be powerful.
Yeah, more of a driving force,
Yeah.
I would say. Okay, amazing. I mean, when you build a business that is purpose-driven in its mission, and obviously you add that component of community into it, it creates such a different aspect of growth. And the growth doesn't only rely on one person, but it goes beyond that, and it goes across a lot of different people. And what does it mean to create a community in today's world for you guys?
Well, first of all, just piggybacking on what you're saying, I think it is possible to do well by doing good, right? By doing good things. And I think that's something that we all aspire to, but very few of us get a chance to actually do. So it's very, very important in that regard. The thing about Nahrep that's unique is that we do have a staff that does a lot of the work and gets done a lot of the programs that we organize as a group, but we rely on literally hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers as well. So if you look at our chapters, and we have almost 100 chapters throughout the country, we have volunteer boards, and those boards do a lot of heavy lifting. They organize their own local events. They bring, partnerships and relationships with local companies, with local public officials, and so forth. They do it all because, first of all, it is definitely a chance to give back to their communities, but also it helps build them from a character standpoint and from a leadership standpoint. So organizing a group or a platform like Nahrep and relying on so many volunteers to make it all work really forces you to develop, first of all, programs and real value as an organization, but it also holds you to a pretty high standard.
Interesting. I have a follow-up question to what you just shared, Gary. How do you create a sense of belonging in a community?
Well, first of all, I think you create a sense of belonging by treating every individual like they matter. So that's the culture that you create within your company or your organization, right? There's certain values and disciplines that any good company has as a foundation to themselves. And so, of course, the way you treat people should be a high priority, whether it's your customers or your employees or your volunteers as an organization. They all have a very important role to play. I also think it's important to give people the benefit of the doubt. And what I mean by that is that you don't just expose them to a particular task. You always remind them of what they're part of from a bigger context. And so as an organization, we're always reselling our members on the mission and the vision of the organization. I think that's part of the process when you talk about building community.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And similar question to you, Jaime. How do you guys create that sense of belonging across all these thousands of professionals in Latin America?
Yeah, so it's an interesting way because we're a fully remote company. I mean, obviously similar to Nahrep that has lots of different chapters that obviously they're in different places, but they do meet in person. Our community is different because it's fully digital, so the interactions are different in that sense. We are now doing actual in-person events, at least for our internal team, but the way that we build community today, because it's a digital world, so we have a platform that we use called Heartbeat. And so when we accept the people that are going to become part of our community, which we only accept about 5% of the people who want to apply and be part of the community, because we want it to be like the highest, let's say, standard, because we end up using that community where we hire from only. So it's really professionals that all share very similar values, so that's an important thing. They share similar values, similar backgrounds. They have similar things that we vetted to make sure that they are all in the right place and in the right community to grow as professionals and to grow as part of the Virtual Latinos broader community. So we have actually a team of right now, I believe it's 3 people that are part of like community engagement. So we do several, I'm going to say, digital activities and different ways where we encourage people to basically interact with each other, in this case through a platform which is Heartbeat. So people comment on people's challenges, people ask questions, and other people reply and help. And then we have other activities where we host, where we basically encourage people to have conversations, to share their challenges, to share their fears, and to see how they can help each other. And that's the community that's really helped themselves, mostly with our support, to show that they belong to something greater. Then we constantly share, our values and our mission so that they know they're in the right place. Whether or not they're going to end up, let's say, finding a job through the community itself is very valuable to them because it's a place that they know they can actually advance professionally and personally wherever, their professional life will take them.
Amazing. And what kind of tools and resources do you guys provide to your community members to be able to empower them?
Yeah, so I mean, we ourselves, through this platform, the platform itself serves, like I said, mostly for the communication purposes, but then, we also now offer tools to actually let them grow professionally, which is mostly our main goal. It's not that we don't want them to grow personally, but, it's a business related community. So we launched not too long ago the Virtual Latinos Academy. So we decided that we wanted to invest in people to learn skills that they don't have today at no cost to them, that are going to be skills that we know would be useful to them to get a remote job. So now we've got about 10 courses. We're about to launch 2 more, and they're in different either skills based on industry, which is how we started now. And then now, for example, we've added AI-related skills, communication skills, and lots of different skills that they can learn to be better prepared to take on a job and actually be successful. So that's in terms of the Virtual Latinos Academy, which we're continuing to grow through, mostly through our clients. We're basically hiring people that are our clients to help us build courses that are relevant so that we know that they're going to have a high chance of being useful to them. And then we have other resources and tools that we share with them in terms of, whether it's specific resources like PDS, productivity tools. We have a whole section of software that they can use. And then now we recently launched a whole new blog just for the virtual Latinos in Latin America. We used to have a blog just for like the entire company. Now we have a whole blog of articles just related to how they can learn more things specifically for their roles. So yeah, lots of resources. We're investing a lot
That's good.
to make it useful to them.
Your community so they can become better professionals and they can continue to grow in their future.
Yeah.
And I want to ask the same question to you because you have such a big array of professionals on the Nahrep community. What kind of tools and resources do you guys provide to these professionals to be able to empower them?
So as an organization, we do a number of things. So one of the things we do is we produce reports and data. And those reports and data provide guidance to our membership. So they know essentially the numbers. So one of the things our State of Hispanic Homeownership Report does, for example, is it locates where are the markets in the United States where there's the greatest opportunity for Hispanic homeownership. And we layer on top of that the average income of Latinos, the growth, as well as the price points for homes in that particular market. So we provide them with a lot of information that helps them from that standpoint. One of the best things we provide as an organization, though, is that we create platforms that allow peer-to-peer support. Okay. So we encourage our members to interact with each other. We may not have all the solutions on how to build a really successful real estate business, but our membership collectively has that information. So creating efficient ways for them to communicate with each other, whether it's at conferences, chapter events, or virtually, That's a big part of what we do as an organization. And finally, we do a lot of advocacy and public policy work. Yeah. So we want to create an environment, whether it's through legislation or through corporate policy, that allows our members to have the best chance to be successful. So our advocacy work is also a big part of what we do.
Amazing. Is there any type of mentorship programs that is, through the volunteers that you guys have? Do they conduct any type of mentorship programs to help, new individuals starting in the real estate industry?
So we don't do that yet, but that's a good idea. Okay. What we do is facilitate mastermind groups, right? Okay. So we try to pair together professionals that are at different states. So we go by their production, right? So are they doing 100 transactions a year? Are they doing 10 transactions a year? Right. Depending on that. So we encourage them to facilitate mastermind groups amongst people that are in their same sort of band in terms of productivity. And of course, the goal is try to increase that and to move up the ladder, so to speak, professionally. So mastermind groups is our version of mentorship programs.
Amazing. That's great. That's great that you guys have. Do you guys have any programs similar to that?
We don't have
webinars or any type of other educational things that could bring that?
Yeah, so we launched about a year ago the Voices of Inspiration video series, where we are bringing basically leaders both in the US and Latin America that have done amazing things that are not actually necessarily related to business to inspire people. In fact, we just posted today in our private community the fact that we had interviewed and brought in the past a guy who's a climber who's going to climb one of the tallest peaks in, I think, in Ecuador or in Latin America. Yeah. He happens to be from the US, but he's living in Latin America. And so he came to just inspire people in terms of being able to set high goals, such as climbing a huge mountain, and just to inspire them in terms of lifestyle and life itself, even though it's not related to work or business. And so we bring different speakers like this to inspire, our community, and that's specifically for them. We did have in the past a mentorship program, which was actually useful. We probably should relaunch it, but we actually paired existing people who were working with us with people who were looking for a job, and they were basically coaching for how to get hired, and it was useful.
Amazing. So both of you are leading very important organizations, and obviously leadership becomes a very important topic to be able to make this successful. I wanted to ask first to Gary, how has your definition of leadership evolved over time since you started this organization till now that it's a massive organization?
Well, I think that leadership in general and the definition of that has changed quite a bit in the last 25 years. If you read a book on leadership 25 years ago, it would tell you, things that are still important, right? Integrity and vision, certain disciplines, and so forth. The thing that rises to the top today is authenticity, right? Being able to connect with people at their level and providing them with a vision that they can relate to. Being very authentic and very deliberate in that regard is probably the most important leadership quality today. There's leaders in politics, and I won't name them, right, that probably have none of the qualities, that we would have said are necessary to be a great leader 20 years ago, but they're authentic. And for whatever reason, they connect with people. Yeah. And that's what people are looking for more today than anything else. Just authentic leadership that they can trust and believe in.
Yeah, authenticity. Someone that they see that it's not pretending to be something else or someone else. They're true to themselves. I think that's something it's actually hard to come by nowadays because everybody is trying to be somebody else.
That's right.
Or pretend somebody else.
That's true.
As social media has grown, everybody is just aimed to be something else instead of really looking inwards and be authentic to
But people can tell. They can tell the difference, and it makes an impact,
Absolutely.
That's true.
How about you, Jaime? How is your definition of change on leadership over time?
I mean, I think I definitely, first of all, agree with what Gary just mentioned about, that difference of being a leader and actually showing that you really are authentic. That's definitely very important. And I think connected to that is part of what I've experienced myself when I grown as a leader. Like I started myself being a leader at 15 in the youth movement, and I was leading little kids at the youth movement, and then I grew to become a leader in high school and several parts of my life. But now I'm the leader of an organization that of course has a lot of people, and one of the things that I hear and I see the big difference is when you can actually connect it to authenticity is when people see the passion of what you're doing. And I think when you're able to easily communicate that passion that you have without faking it, or I guess it could be faked, but it's very hard to necessarily fake it. So when I talk to people, I'm sure just like Gary, he obviously is heard as an authentic voice, and when I speak and I relate and I'm trying to be me, I am being me and I'm being authentic. But I think that my passion usually really shows up with the way I speak and the way that I truly say the things that I say because I mean them, right? So if you're authentic and you mean them and you're not BSing people, then people can tell, and that authenticity and that enthusiasm and the passion is much more easily communicated and transmitted. So that's why people trust you and they want to follow your vision.
Absolutely. I think, from the initial part of our conversation today, when you guys shared with me the vision and the mission of your organizations, I could immediately sense both of your passion. And I think, even the people who are going to be watching this video and even the people in this room could really feel that passion that both of you have. And that radiates, right? That radiates to other people, that energy. And I think that's what attracts people. That being said, I wanted to ask you guys also about culture, right? Being a leader also has an important responsibility of creating a culture within your organization. How has that been, the importance of creating a culture in your organization, Gary, for you?
Well, first of all, leadership is something that is core to the organization. We actually have a leadership academy for our members. So we try to build a culture of leadership. We try to train people to become great leaders in their own businesses, in their chapter. Some of them become national board members and become real public figures from a leadership standpoint in our industry, so to speak. So embedding that into the culture of the organization is something that comes very natural to us as an organization. There are certain disciplines, right? There's a great book by Ray Dalio called Principles, right? And having principles that guide your organization, I think, are very critical. That provides an intangible leadership that any good organization has at the end of the day. And having clarity about that is key. So I think there's certain things that our organization, that separates us as an organization. We have a saying inside of Nahrep, and that is, there's no drama in Nahrep, right? Easier said than done, right?
And it's surprising. In Hispanic culture, there's
Especially,
a lot of
drama is embedded.
that's why we made that like discipline number one, right? There's no drama in Nahrep, but just by having that, because there are people who just bring drama, right? And it just it tends to attract people who are attracted by that discipline, and it tends to repel people who are not basically attracted to that kind of discipline. So it's a self-selecting process that over time really creates, not only brings the right people to the organization, but it creates a culture that everybody really subscribes to. So those are some of the things that we do as a group.
Interesting. And I think I've seen what you have shared right now in person, because I've participated in several of your organization's event, and I've seen amongst your membership that sense of belonging and the respect and the the genuine desire to help one another. It's something that you don't get to see in a lot of different organizations, because there's always a sense of competition, right?
Yeah.
Versus really, how can I help you or help one another? And that's something that has really impressed me, and I think that trickles down from the main organization, and how the culture that you have built is really radiating down to all of your members. So I want to congratulate you on that. In person, I've seen that, so that's something amazing to see. And how about you, Jaime? How the culture component has been important to your organization?
The culture has been really important. I mean, culture is hard to define and hard to put in paper. It's more about what people feel that the organization is about. We've definitely have our challenges because it's a totally remote company to be able to maintain the culture from a small group of people to now hundreds of thousands of people that are part of the community. And even, the culture for us, it's both internally for the company that we are managing as a whole, but as well as the greater community that is the people that are working with our clients and the people that are part of the even broader community. And initially the culture really came, and it probably started just like with you, through you and your values, right? And then in this case, it was started through the things that I thought were important and the values that I had as a person that then, made the organization be what it is. But then, of course, those values have to be somehow shared with everybody else. So now what we've implemented, which has been very useful in terms of tangibalizing, what we're at about in words. So about almost 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, we implemented the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, that part of building that to be able to manage the company in a better way in a format was to create like an actual document with your mission statement and your vision and your core values. So we spent a lot of time as an organization really writing down what we believe are and are currently the core values as an organization. And then once we had like 7 of them, we spent even more time and we rewrote them, and we finally came in to like the 4 final core values that we have. And like our number one is like passion to help others thrive. And passion to help others thrive is a very important value that we live by, because we want to make sure that from the beginning, whether it's a client or somebody from the internal company, we want everybody to support each other, right? So if you're not here to want to help somebody else be better in what they're doing, you're not going to be the right fit, right? And so we try to attract those type of people through the selection process, as well as when we're vetting clients and talking to them, to make sure that it's people that are going to align with that vision, right? In fact, part of the US system is that we need to use those values to both hire and fire people. So now we actually have it like into our HR policies. Like when we're gonna talk to these people, we're gonna tell them what our values are and make sure that they're aligned. And when we're actually letting people go, we literally use the 4 core values to grade people, whether they're a good fit or a bad fit. And if they're not a good fit, that means it's best for them to not stay with us and best for the community, right? And another one is the drive to grow. We want to make sure that people are always looking to grow and to continue to be better as people and as business owners. And those are 2 out of the 4. I won't go in more with it, but even if you just put them on slides and you tell them to people, the truth is that's not good enough, right? You need to actually show up, and you need to actually show that you mean what your values are. So when we're not only just talking about them, we want to make sure that people see that we actually care for other people. So we need to say it, not just say it, but we need to actually put it in action. So through the types of events that we organize, or through the types of things and policies that we create, we show that we're actually serious about our values, and we're not just trying to put something nice in words.
Some words on the office, walls to just showcase some fancy words.
And the hard thing is figuring out, hey, are we actually achieving it or not? And so when we actually interview the people that work with us and we ask for feedback and we do interviews, sometimes anonymously, sometimes not, we want to hear what they think of the organization. And when they do reflect back that the reason that they are here and that they're working so hard is because they do identify with the values and they do believe that they're actually being done properly, that means that we're doing a good job. And sometimes, there's room for growth, but we're trying to always make it better.
Amazing. How the work landscape has shifted in the last 5-6 years between having in-person team members as well as remote team members. Both organizations have remote team members as well. How do you maintain a culture with remote organizations, remote team members?
Well, I can start,
Yeah,
sure.
you can start.
Well, we had to do that from day one. So that's been hard for us because, in fact, I hadn't met most of our teammates in many years because everything was remote. But, of course, through Zoom, you create conversations and you get to know people and you talk to them. And, as humans, we communicate in different forms, whether it's in person or not. But at least for us, we realized, thanks to one of our clients, so one of our clients in San Diego started bringing their virtual Latinos to San Diego every 3 months. And I started to meet. They are part of our community, but they weren't directly part of our team internally. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, it's such a difference to be able to just go and chat with someone face to face and go to a restaurant and have a beer and start chatting about just normal things. And the connection that brought in person was like super valuable. So then I made it a goal that, I had to get to the point to be able to afford to bring our team to San Diego, which eventually we did. And our first in-person leadership summit in San Diego was amazing because we literally made super amazing and important choices that literally shaped what the company is today, thanks to that meeting that we had in person. And then we grew that even bigger. And then we've now done 3 years the Virtual Latino Summit. So we changed it from leadership to a broader group of people from our community, and we've invited people to Cancun in person, now to Colombia last year. And like when we bring people together, that's a huge way to be able to actually connect at least once, let's say, or more than once in person, because those connections that we do in person, we know that they bring so much more value, so that when we're actually not in person and back into digital, those relationships have been formed and strengthened. So I actually believe that although of course we are a very remote company, the in-person component is so important, which is why now we are committed to eventually, our goal is so that our team internally meets with somebody else from the company at least twice a year in person. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the same thing for you, Gary, because other than your internal team having remote and in person, you have chapters all over the U.S.
Right.
So in some way, you have to be able to connect with them. You have to be able to pass down the values and the mission and the culture to all these members. Like, how do you guys manage that culture component with every single member of the organization?
It is hard. You have it, I think, maybe even a little harder, right? In the sense that our group does get together
Yeah.
periodically, right? The chapters get together on their own. We do have national events and conferences that attract a lot of them. But we have a couple of different things in terms of our operations and governance that help in that regard. And one of them is something called coaches. So all of our chapters are volunteers. They all have term limits. So when their term as president is over, they have to rotate off. But when they rotate off, they're eligible to become a coach for another chapter. And that creates a layer between our staff and our volunteers throughout the country. And they serve as a sounding board, right? So when a new president comes in and they don't understand why we have this one policy, or how come national makes us do this or that, or whatever the case may be, they have this coach that, like, I used to be a chapter president too, and this is why they do that. I didn't understand it either in the beginning, but now I do.
Yeah.
So we try to create different layers to where people always have touch points within the organization where they maintain that connection to us and maintain an understanding of the organization's culture and how we do things as a group.
Interesting.
Sounds
That's something that important to learn, because that methodology of having that layer structure of actually bringing down the information and the importance of the culture of the organization is something that I haven't heard from a lot of organizations. So thank you so much for sharing that, Gary. And I wanted to ask you, when did you first realize you were believing and leading something bigger than yourself?
It didn't take too long. I'll tell you, when we started the organization 25 years ago, it was two of us. I had a partner by the name of Ernie Reyes, who passed away a few years ago. He was older than me. He was like 20 years older than me. And he understood the political potential of an organization like ours. He used to work in politics. So he's like, if we get our act together politically, we can actually get a few things done in DC. I looked at it from a very pragmatic standpoint. I was a younger business owner. I owned a mortgage company at the time. And I was looking for mentors and access to capital and customers and so forth. And I felt like if there was an organization like Nahrep out there, someone like me could find those types of things within the network. But when I started doing it, right, and I started to recognize the scope of what we were doing as an organization, and maybe the one sort of anecdote was when I was invited to testify in front of Congress on a particular housing issue, which was a very intimidating thing to do for the very first time. I was probably like 38, the first time I did that. And these members of Congress were like asking me questions about housing like I was the expert, right? And I was thinking, I just started this a couple of years ago. I don't really know what I'm talking about. But it did sort of put a sense of responsibility on me. It's like, I gotta know what I'm doing, right? People are relying on me to provide, guidance and leadership and to represent us in some capacity. So, those types of, it didn't take many experiences like that to realize, this is much bigger than just a business or just doing, something small. This is having an impact on people that I don't even know. And once you realize that, then hopefully it provides you with that sense of responsibility to do your best.
Amazing. And at what point you started understanding that or feeling that this is starting to scale to a level that, yes, this is bigger than what I've imagined. Like maybe initially you guys were like, okay, we're gonna start to help the people, in this industry at a smaller scale. But when did it become like something that you're like, okay, this is way bigger than me?
So when we started the organization, which was right around the year 2000, the timing was actually pretty good because Latinos had just become the largest minority group in the United States, had just surpassed the African American community. And so companies and the media and so forth started to pay more attention to Latinos in general. So when Nahrep emerged, people were paying attention to us. But the first 5 or 6 years, we were making it up as we went along. However, in 2008, the market crashed.
Yeah.
And it really sort of changed us from a perception standpoint.
Yeah.
The organization almost disappeared at that point. But one thing happened that I did not expect, and that is in 2008 to 2012, the toughest 4-year stretch in the housing industry, probably since the Great Depression, Nahrep actually got larger. And it actually increased in members, and our members became more active. And I realized at that point that I couldn't stop this thing if I wanted to, right? It had a life of its own. That something we did along the way created so much value, or maybe so much of a sense of belonging, that people were not going to let it go. And when you really started to realize that, especially with our organization, I think, people don't just have a casual relationship with Nahrep. It is part of their professional identity. It is part of how they present themselves from a business standpoint. That changes it from an intellectual sort of thing to an emotional connection they have to the organization. Once we realized that we had that emotional connection to our members, is when we realized that this thing is going to be bigger than what we thought.
Amazing. And that sense of belonging brings empowerment.
Yep.
So I think that's the part that people get really attached to it.
Yep.
And how about you, Jaime? When did you first realize you were believing and leading something bigger than yourself?
I mean, it's a good question. The truth is, for me, it actually started way younger for me personally in terms of like, wow, what I'm doing as a leader is actually making a difference in people's real lives. And I mean, I actually have a very specific memory of when. So in the youth movement that I was taking care of, kids once a week at, by doing activities every Saturday, we had a lot of freedom. I was 15. I felt kind of empowered to be so young and still be able to, shape the lives of these kids who were like 12 or 13 years old. And we had to do different activities that were to help them grow as, young men. I was just in charge of the men's, no, not the ladies. And, I did an activity that was like really powerful. I won't get into the details of it. It doesn't matter. But I remember after that activity, the parents came to me and is like, Jaime, we just want to thank you that what you just did today was having a very important conversation that we always wished someone could do other than us as parents, because they're hard conversations to have with kids. And you were able to do it so well and like so professional, and like the kids came home like so feeling so amazed of the value that you brought to them as a friend and as a mentor. And I'm like, wow, like when you're leading and you're making an impact, it can literally change people's lives, and in this case, their families' lives. And obviously that was just one example, but I realized that what I was doing in terms of volunteering and leading these kids was a great way to pass on some of the values of what I believe in to other people. And I continued being leader in other ways, but of course, that's in terms of your question, right? But when it came to Virtual Latinos, the truth is like, that sense of like, oh my God, we're really making a huge difference came from we used to do town hall meetings where we would just invite all the people that were either already working with us or people who were part of the community, but they were not employed yet, they weren't working with us yet, and they were just part of the community. So we would invite everybody just like on Zoom for 2-3 hours to just chat and just share who they are, where they're from, their challenges, their lives. And then, we started listening because people who were already working wanted to share with others and wanted to spend their time, because like, you could say, well, I already have a job. I'm not going to go waste my time talking to people. But no. They came and they were like, we're so happy that Virtual Latinos exist similar to you, because there wasn't back then any organization that was supporting Latinos to work remotely. We were the first ones. So they honestly back then had no option. So the fact that we became an organization that they could believe in, that their future could be better and they can earn a living wage that would really make a difference in their lives, and they would actually start saying the examples of, hey, thanks to the job I have with Virtual Latinos, I was able to buy a car, or I was able to put my kids through school, I was able to buy things for my parents. Eventually people started telling us that they were buying houses. So we're like, oh my God, this isn't just about a job anymore. It's not just about making money. Like, these organizations like literally changing lives, right? And then we kept hearing it. And then not only that, but then people kept encouraging other people to not give up and to keep trying and to keep applying. So when you start to see that there's something bigger than what you planned, and that the value that you're doing like literally changes lives, then it was like, okay, wow, I can't believe it, but this is gonna go like to be much deeper than we thought. So
It's bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's just simply bigger than you.
yeah.
And how about the challenges? Could you share with me, Gary, some of the most common challenges that you have faced as a leader throughout this journey?
Well, I mean, if I, again, go back to 2008, and this is external, right? So as an organization, as a housing organization, it's not just the way we manage the organization. We're also impacted by what's happening in the marketplace and what's happening in the economy.
Yeah.
And nobody predicted what would happen in 2008.
Yeah.
And it changed the entire economy. It changed our organization. But it also forced me to think about the true purpose of the organization. It needed to be about something a little bit more than just a place where people get together and try to find their next real estate deal. It had to be about something that was much larger than that and more purposeful than that. And that's when we started the Hispanic Wealth Project, right? So we started to very tangibly think about the wealth disciplines of our members, and how, if there ever is a recession like there was in 2008, they're prepared for it. And in fact, they're not only prepared for it, they're going to thrive in all different elements of the economy. So there was probably nothing more challenging than 2008, but it definitely gave us a chance to reinvent ourselves a bit, reset our priorities as an organization. And just by surviving that, I think it made us a stronger organization overall.
Interesting. And I believe that, a true leader really showcases itself not only in the good times, but in the challenging times,
Absolutely.
Those are the times where you want to have the right leader and the right person in that place, so it can really continue to move the organization forward. That's a really interesting story. Thank you so much for sharing. How about you, Jaime?
I mean, I think that for me, the leadership journey that I'm in has definitely evolved a lot. I mean, I was initially managing a team of marketers. At the most, it was like 12 people. And then, that same number got matched with Virtual Latinos. And eventually we had 30, 40 people. And now we're over 160 people internally. There's over 1,600 people working with clients. Like, it's a big impact, and it's a big organization. So the truth is, it's been hard for me to, like, on a day-to-day realize, let's say, the impact that as a leader I have and what the organization does, because, I wake up and I can go work by myself in my office and I see no one, right? Unless I have a meeting on Zoom, I see no one. So I've made it a mental activity to sometimes picture, if I had to come into the office with the rest of my team and let's say 1,800 people working in a single place, it would be like shocking to see so many people working together. But because I'm not in that, sometimes it's hard to forget the impact of like every word that you say and everything that you're saying will actually make a big impact. And the reason I'm saying it's been a challenge because, I think of myself as the same person I was before. The fact that the company's successful doesn't feel to me like I've necessarily changed much. I'm still the same person, but of course learning more, but trying to keep up with the leader that I need to be able to continue to lead the organization is something that I've struggled with in terms of like, how do I keep up to make sure that people still see that I have what it takes to continue to lead the organization. So I know that as a leader, I need to continue to educate myself, to continue to show up and to continue to try my best. But at the same time, it's hard because you don't, like you said when you were 38, you don't always know all the answers. And as a leader, you don't know everything, but you're expected to in a way, and people are looking up to you, right? So that's the hard part because you have to, in a way, fake it till you make it and pretend and do your best, and you're gonna do your best pitch, or you're gonna do your best effort, and hopefully it'll stick. And if it doesn't, then you gotta change, right? So because of the many constant changes of our organization, I'm constantly on the lookout for how to continue to evolve.
Yeah, from hearing both of you, it really makes me think of one of the most important traits a leader should have is the emotional intelligence. There is so much emotional strength that is necessary to be able to continue pushing forward, knowing that all these people are relying on you. That's something that is not spoken a lot in the leadership space, but I think the emotional impact and the strength and the, intelligence that someone needs to be able to properly lead organizations, regardless of its size, is something super, super, super important.
Yeah.
And how have you navigated that space, when it comes to the things that would impact you emotionally, Gary?
I mean, to me, emotional intelligence is just having the ability to kind of rise above the fray a little bit, right? And not get sort of sucked into every little battle or every little street fight, to be able to step back and look at the context and be able to make the right decision for the organization moving forward. I do think that's a critical skill set that leaders have, especially when things are tough, right? So when things are difficult, your team is going to look to the leader for guidance. And if that leader looks completely overwhelmed or overly emotional to where they're sort of reacting and not necessarily leading, I think that's going to have an impact on the team itself. But no matter how bad things get, if the leader is always sort of cool, always making a calculated decision and not getting too sort of involved in the pettiness of what sometimes occurs, I think you make for a better organization. And obviously, I think that was what makes the best leaders, frankly.
Amazing. How about you, Jaime?
I mean, look, for me, I realized that, by being open and being in a way vulnerable and sharing with people, openly some, of the train of thought of why, I'm making certain decisions this way or that way. I think that it's been helpful to both reassure them that, there's a reason behind, let's say, decisions that I want to make, by sharing my point of view and by being open. I guess the opposite of being, let's say, not that leaders are dictators, right? But sometimes leaders just make decisions and not always necessarily share why those decisions are being made. So when you're making the people that you're leading part of that conversation and you share with them the challenges and the struggles and you at least openly talk about them, it also helps them, understand you and why you're making the decisions that you're making. But I totally agree with Gary. In the end, you are the leader and you need to still set foot and be the example and still lead them and not look totally vulnerable or getting too much into the emotions, because then people, if they see that you're weak, even if you are weak inside, you can't be necessarily showing it, right? So, I mean, I definitely generally tend to always feel like, I have the strength to continue to be a leader, but it's hard. And the reality is that sometimes, we do break down, and it's a balance of, which parts of that do you show or not show so that your leaders, the rest of your leaders and the people see that you have both the human aspect of being vulnerable and not being completely, let's say, always in control, but at the same time sharing that while still leading. So keeping the balance so that people also relate to you is important.
Yeah, keeping the human part.
Keeping the human part.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Authenticity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And following up, what is one advice you would give to a young professional who's aspiring to become a leader?
So I would say to a young professional who is aspiring to be a leader is, first of all, be really good at what you do, right? So I think that's one thing that people sometimes overlook or maybe take for granted.
Yeah.
When one of the things that people like to say is that if you want to be successful, hang around with successful people. And that's absolutely true, but it's easier said than done, right? Successful people don't want to hang out with people that aren't also successful or don't bring something to the table. If you are really good at something, anything, that automatically gives you a seat at the table. So don't overlook that. Focus on your craft, be really good at what you do, And I think from that standpoint, your ability to become a leader will evolve from there, right? You can't just leapfrog and be a leader if you haven't done the groundwork and you aren't actually great at something that really merits you being a leader. So.
Very interesting. This is something that I tell a lot and talk about a lot with my team members because, a lot of the young team members, they're obviously, they're really driven and they want to become managers tomorrow. And they think it's just an easy thing to become someone who's going to lead, manage, and have that accountability over people. And as you said, take your time, really learn your craft, become the master of your craft.
Right.
And also, it's important to educate yourself in the way of leading and managing others, because if you don't understand how that strategy is, then you're going to fail earlier. So it's very important. How about you, Jaime? What kind of advice would you give to a young professional?
I mean, I think that in general, someone that wants to be a leader, I totally agree with Gary. First of all, you got to really know what it is that your skill or something that you're good at really is going to set you apart from others. While you were saying that, I really thought about Gary Vee, that constantly is giving advice to a lot of young people. And, a lot of young people are like, I'm just going to go on social media and become an influencer and just start talking about A, B, and C and pretend that I know. But, if you don't really know what you're talking about, eventually people are going to catch on that you're kind of lying and you're not really real or authentic, going back to authenticity. So I think that, first focusing on really being an expert on something, or even if you're not an expert on something, just being genuinely passionate, back to what I said earlier, genuinely passionate about something that you want to make a change on, or something that you're passionate about that you want to share with the world. When you're authentic and you're being passionate, or in this case, both of those things plus an actual skill set that you're good at, that will naturally lead you to likely be a good leader if you want to be in a leadership position.
Amazing.
Without it, it's just a lot of talk and not real.
And there's a lot of noise, and there's a lot of talk right now in social media and everywhere. Everybody wants to become leaders. Everybody wants to become managers. Everybody wants to become coaches and consultants. It's like a never-ending.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shortcut for some people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I would just piggyback on all of that is, like, once you are good at something and you want to become a leader, another thing that people sometimes overlook is how important communication skills are, right? Can you convey a thought, right? Can you sell your vision, right? Can you communicate with people in a way that they can retain?
Yeah.
One of the greatest disciplines somebody once taught me, right, is this is like the ultimate accountability that leaders have. And that is, I'm not accountable for what I told you, and then you come back and say, well, I thought you said this. Well, then that's on you. Yeah. No, it's on me. If I communicated something to you and you interpreted it different than I intended, that's my responsibility. That's not your responsibility. Yeah. And he told me, this person who taught me this, he said, let me tell you, if my life depended on you doing this task perfectly, I would leave nothing to chance, right? Yeah. I would tell you exactly what I wanted to do, and I wouldn't, create the opportunity for you to misinterpret it at all. That is the ultimate form of accountability, and a really great discipline that good leaders have, I think, as well.
That's a really good point.
That's a great point.
Communication and how you communicate, the accountability around your communication is definitely one of the most important traits of being a good leader, because the message that you're going to convey and the way that they're going to answer, that's how the reaction is going to come afterwards. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. And my last question to both of you, well, I'll first ask to Gary, since both organizations are definitely to be able to help inspire and grow Latinos, not just in the U.S., across all Latin America, I would call it, what unique qualities do you believe Latino professionals bring to the global leadership? Culturally.
So let me just, if you don't mind, say this one thing, right? So we're not actually just working on a parallel path. We're actually partners, right?
Yes, correct.
So we're a client, and they are actually a corporate partner of ours. So they're one of the few companies that we work with that I truly view as a partner of ours. So we subscribe to your organization and the values that you put out there.
Similarly.
I think that Latinos bring unique skill sets and a unique perspective that is valuable in a lot of different ways. So first of all, our commitment to family really, I think, grounds us as individuals and as people, right? Almost everything that we do is for our family, right? For us in the real estate industry, we know that, and that's why selling homes is so appealing to Latinos, because the home is the center of the family experience, right?
Yeah.
There's also this passion that Latinos tend to have as well, right? Sometimes it's not so great, but most of the time it's a special quality that, when it's harnessed correctly, makes you an even more productive leader and contributor to a company or to society in general, right? So I think there's a number of things that differentiate Latinos from the overall population, but those are two that come to mind.
Amazing. How about
Yeah,
you?
I mean, those two for sure. I personally, I'm all about family like many people, but I'm like, even within my family, I'm the one that's like always want to get people together, and I really believe in the power of it and the importance of it. And I came from a big family from Mexico, so definitely that part of the Latino culture is super important, because what do families do, right? Families actually support each other. Families care about each other, and families actually do everything it takes to make sure that your family member is not going to be, let's say, on the street, or is not going to fail, right? Because we do take care of each other as family. And like, this is the amazing thing that we see, and I'm sure you see too, that we know within our communities, whether these people actually related or not, the fact that we're all Latino, and in our case from 20 plus countries, we are all connected to the same community and the same ideals and values of the importance of being next to our family. And for example, that's one of the values that we value within our community, the fact that people can't stay close to their family, whether it's in the same city or the same country, without actually having to migrate to the United States, which we know, of course, a lot of Latinos end up choosing to do, or like my family, right? But because that's such an important part of the Latino culture, in our case, we're able to make the ability for people to stay home and close to their families, right? For me, another one is, they are always super hardworking when it comes to making sure that, they get what they need, and they're never going to be lazy, right? That's something that we constantly hear from our clients. They're always trying their best. They're always working hard to make sure that, they're not only doing it obviously for the company, they're doing it for themselves. They want to prove to themselves that they can do it on their own. And maybe that comes from a psychological thing of like the struggles we've had in Latin America, in the countries that we're from. Originally, where you always constantly need to work hard to make sure that you make it, as opposed to honestly like coming in the U.S. Not that people don't work hard here, but it's like the middle class and the society, and like in the U.S. Of course, now everybody works hard because things are complicated, right? But things were, let's say, in a way more stable in the United States compared to countries in Latin America. So people in Latin America have this internal struggle to always continue to thrive and want to survive, right? So that is something that makes it very special, so that when those people are working with our community, right, people tell us like, oh my God, the people in America, they're showing up, they're so hardworking, they're so passionate about what they're doing, and that makes a big impact in the bottom line in terms of our clients' businesses, right? So that's, of course, another one, a huge one.
Definitely. And I would add one more quality to from what you both have shared. I think one of the interesting quality and unique quality that Latinos have is the creativity. Because also to become a authentic leader, as someone that has something that sets them apart, it needs to have some level of creativity. And I believe the Latino community and the people are the most creative people that are out there in the world. So
I agree.
that sets them apart big time. And before we close, I want to take a moment to recognize both of you. In a world full of leaders, it takes something special to stand out, and both of you have done with vision, integrity, and unwavering commitment. So it's such an honor to have you both here with me. And I wanted to let this moment be a reminder to everyone watching, believe you can, and because belief is the spark that turns vision into action and action into impact. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for being with us. And I want to also thank you and Nahrep and the whole organization, because you've entrusted part of your organization to Virtual Latinos, and it's made a big impact. Of course, for Nahrep, we know that, but also for us and the overall community. You've been helping a lot of people, so you are actually literally part of the success and part of getting to the mission of helping 1 million lives to improve their lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's what partnerships are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you for joining us.
All right.